Divorce papers at my own anniversary party. 300 witnesses, cameras rolling, and my mother-in-law was grinning as she'd won. But I wasn't the one losing, because I had a secret, and it was about to destroy her. If you love crazy paybacks and family stories, subscribe and help our channel grow with more shocking revenge stories. The moment I stepped into the grand hall of the Mirabelle estate, I felt it. That sharp, icy rhythm in the air that only appears when someone is planning your downfall. I've learned to recognize that feeling. The chandeliers glittered like frozen fireworks, live violinists played something elegant and dramatic, and every guest was dripping in diamonds, whispers, and judgment. But nothing in that room shined brighter or louder than Vivian Hayes, my mother-in-law. Tonight, she wore a gold gown so bold it nearly blinded the guests. Not champagne, not muted gold, full metallic gold, stitched with gemstones, as if she were the one renewing vows tonight. She floated through the crowd like a monarch, greeting guests who pretended to adore her while secretly fearing her. And right beside her stood my husband, Lorenzo, smiling the same timid smile he always wore when she puppeteered his actions. I adjusted the strap of my black satin dress, simple, elegant, and chosen intentionally. I didn't need to scream for attention. People who hold real power rarely do. Vivian caught sight of me, and her lips curled into the kind of smile villains wear right before delivering the last blow. My stomach tightened, but I didn't let it show. She waved her hand sharply. The orchestra stopped mid-note. Conversations died instantly. A spotlight blasted down on me, turning hundreds of eyes into weapons. "Ladies and gentlemen," Vivian announced, her voice dripping with sugary venom, "I have a very special gift for my dear daughter-in-law, Ava." A server approached with a velvet box, long, heavy, wrapped with an extravagant bow, a box that didn't belong in a celebration. I accepted it calmly. Vivian leaned in, her perfume suffocating. "Open it, darling," she said loud enough for the cameras. "You deserve this." Clicks. Flashing lights, phones recording. I loosened the ribbon, lifted the lid. Silence. Inside were divorce papers, already notarized, already signed by Lorenzo. A few gasps, a muffled laugh. Someone whispered, "Oh my God, she's being dumped publicly." Vivian clasped her hands, satisfied. "Happy anniversary," she purred. And that's when I did the one thing she never expected. I smiled. A real, calm, devastating smile. Because this wasn't the end of anything. It was the beginning of my move. The room was still buzzing from the shock of Vivian's gift, but I felt nothing but calm. That's when I realized the power of observation. While the others whispered and gasped, I studied every detail. The gold embroidery of Vivian's gown, the subtle smirk playing on her lips, Lorenzo's nervous shifting from foot to foot. Everything had meaning. Everything was a clue. I excused myself from the cluster of guests and slipped into the hallway, letting the murmurs of speculation wash over me. In that quiet corridor, I allowed myself to breathe. This was exactly the moment I needed. Not to cry, not to scream, but to think. As I leaned against the cool marble wall, my mind drifted back to the year I had spent in the Hayes household. Every dinner, every small insult, every veiled criticism. They weren't random. Vivian's cruelty had been methodical, like a spider weaving a web, ensuring that Lorenzo and everyone else remained under her control. She had isolated me socially, cutting me off from friends, making subtle threats to my career, and planting seeds of doubt in Lorenzo's mind. And yet, I had survived. Not just survived, I had watched, remembered, and learned. I remembered the time she insisted I host an intimate luncheon for her so-called business associates. She critiqued my table settings, my manners, even my choice of wine. "You'll never understand how the world works, Ava," she had said, her eyes glinting with satisfaction. That had been a warning, a test, a demonstration of control. But amidst all her schemes, she had one critical blind spot: her empire wasn't as untouchable as she believed. During those subtle cracks, I had noticed inconsistencies in the Hayes family finances. Small things at first: odd ledger entries, untraceable transfers, whispered rumors of offshore accounts. Something didn't add up, and my curiosity had grown into determination. Now, standing in the hall of the estate, I knew the first move had been made. Vivian thought she had buried her secrets. Well, she hadn't. And I intended to dig them up, piece by piece, quietly, surgically. I smiled faintly at my own reflection in the gilded mirror. Calm, poised, untouchable. Let everyone else think they were in control. Let them believe that a simple piece of paper could break me. Vivian had handed me divorce papers at our anniversary party, expecting me to crumble. Instead, she had handed me the perfect opening, the perfect beginning for my plan. And she had no idea. Because while she thought she was winning, I was about to uncover a truth that would change everything and make her entire empire vulnerable. For over a year, I had walked among the Hayes as someone they thought they could control, a quiet, unassuming wife. No one knew who I really was. Not Vivian, not Lorenzo, not even half the socialites who whispered behind my back at galas and charity events. Because the truth was dangerous. I am Ava Sterling, heir to Sterling Holdings, a private empire worth over $12 billion. My father, Graham Sterling, built the company from nothing: software, real estate, energy. And years ago, after multiple threats on our family's safety, I chose anonymity. I wanted life to be normal as possible, for someone born into that level of wealth. Only Damien, my talented friend and personal counsel, had ever known my identity. And now, with Vivian dangling divorce papers in front of me, I realized that anonymity was no longer enough. It was time to step into the full weight of who I was, quietly, but with precision. I began to dig. What I found shocked me, even after months of careful observation. The Hayes Empire, grand houses, flashy cars, a sprawling manufacturing conglomerate, wasn't as solid as Vivian projected. In fact, it was drowning. Debts hidden under shell companies, mismanaged assets, and fraudulent transfers. And worse, someone was manipulating their records, intentionally keeping the family in the dark. Vivian had been meticulous, no doubt. But in her obsession to humiliate me, she had overlooked one crucial detail. I know how to read the cracks in an empire. As I traced bank accounts, balance sheets, and property deeds, the pattern became clear. Vivian wasn't just controlling Lorenzo and terrorizing me. She had been quietly destabilizing the family's finances, masking failures behind loans, misleading investors, and playing a dangerous game of perception versus reality. And here's the twist no one expected. The hand behind the destabilization wasn't entirely Vivian's. Someone else was moving pieces on this chessboard. A secret ally, a puppet master in her shadow, and if I wasn't careful, their interference could ruin everything I planned. I leaned back in my chair, thinking of the gala, the divorce papers, the cameras, and the whispers. She thought she had buried her secrets well. She hadn't. Not yet. Because now, I wasn't just planning revenge. I was preparing to expose every hidden account, every forged signature, every lie Vivian had built her empire upon. And the person helping her would be the first one I would uncover. The night air was cool as I slipped into my private study, far from the glittering chaos of the Hayes Gala. The divorce papers, still tucked neatly into my bag, felt more like a weapon than a threat now. For months, I had been watching, learning, calculating, but tonight, it was time to dig deeper. With Damien coordinating from Sterling Holdings' secure channels, I accessed every piece of financial data I could: Hale Manufacturing, the trust funds, the real estate holdings, even the charity foundations that Vivian loved to showcase at social events. And I found them: hidden accounts with transfers no one could explain, shell companies with names that didn't match any known associates, laundered money routed through offshore banks. Each discovery was like a puzzle piece, revealing a picture of systematic deceit and manipulation. Vivian's empire wasn't just built on wealth, it was built on control, intimidation, and lies. But the most shocking revelation wasn't just the money, it was her plan. Vivian was preparing for a major maneuver. She intended to divorce Lorenzo and marry him off into another wealthy family, consolidating her influence while pretending to protect her son. She was using him as a pawn, and everyone around her was oblivious. I frowned as I noticed something else, an unexpected name appearing repeatedly in the spreadsheets. Someone close to me, someone I had trusted. My heart sank slightly as I traced the transactions. Lena, my longtime friend, had been quietly funneling information and perhaps even aiding Vivian's manipulations. I could feel the betrayal like a physical weight, but I couldn't let it cloud my judgment. Every move from here needed precision. I leaned back, staring at the glowing numbers on my screen. Every empire has a skeleton, or several, and Vivian's closet was overflowing. But skeletons are only dangerous when left unchecked. I intended to confront them, methodically, publicly, and irreversibly. Tonight, I wasn't just a wife, humiliated with divorce papers. I was the storm, quietly gathering strength. The divorce wasn't the end of the game. It was the first checkmate in a multi-move strategy. And Vivian had no idea. Because now, I was about to turn the tables entirely. Every debt, every company, every asset Vivian believed she controlled would slowly slip into my hands. But the bigger question lingered: who else in her circle was secretly aiding her? And how deep did that betrayal run? By the time the city's skyline glittered under the late evening lights, I was already 2 moves ahead. The divorce papers weren't humiliation, they were leverage. Vivian believed she had cornered me, but in truth, I had been quietly cornering her empire. Using shell companies, trusts, and Danian's strategic financial networks, I began purchasing Hale debts, personal loans, and minor holdings that collectively formed the foundation of their wealth. Every transaction was subtle, untraceable, legal, but irreversible. Each acquisition was a thread slowly unraveling the tapestry Vivian had so carefully woven. The thrill of power was nothing new. I had been trained for this. But what exhilarated me most was the precision, the knowledge that while Vivian believed she was plotting against me, she was actually feeding the hand that would eventually hold her empire. And then there was the obstacle. A sudden red flag appeared in one of the acquisition chains, a bid blocked at the last minute. Someone was interfering. Someone who knew exactly what I was doing and had the resources to stop me. That meant one thing: Vivian had an ally. A secret player, possibly embedded within the family, or worse, someone from her inner business circle. I clenched my fists quietly. Excellent. If Vivian thought she could manipulate this unknown ally to counter me, she had no idea that I had already anticipated it. Every move I made was calculated, every counter move pre-planned. Damien's voice came over the encrypted line, calm but sharp. Ava, the block was intentional. It's not a coincidence. Whoever it is, they've been watching your progress, but I've already lined up a contingency. You'll have your next acquisition within 48 hours, undetected. I allowed myself a small, satisfied smile. Control was intoxicating, but control combined with knowledge was unstoppable. And yet, the bigger thrill was knowing that the empire Vivian thought she ruled with an iron fist was crumbling piece by piece, and she didn't even know it. She thought she had prepared everything perfectly, humiliating me publicly, isolating Lorenzo, and cementing her influence over the family legacy. She had no idea I was already inside the walls, quietly taking ownership of the foundations she had built her life upon, because the next move would reveal betrayal from someone even closer than I anticipated, someone I once trusted completely. And once that piece fell, Vivian's carefully curated control would begin to collapse from the inside out. I never liked surprises, especially not the kind that came from someone you trusted. Lena's face appeared on my screen, smiling innocently in a video call I had requested under the pretense of a routine check-in. But the data Damien had pulled told a different story. She had been feeding Vivian information. Not just casual updates, but precise, strategic intel on my acquisitions, my patterns, and my intentions. My stomach tightened, not with fear, but with anticipation. Every betrayal is a lesson, and this one was about to pay off. "Lena," I said softly, letting the weight of my voice hang in the air, "why are you helping her?" Her smile faltered, tiny cracks appearing in the mask I had once called friendship. I thought I was protecting Marcus," she stammered. But even as she spoke, Damien whispered in my ear, "She's scared, and scared people are predictable." I nodded, letting her words hang. Yes, she was afraid, but what she didn't realize was that fear could be used. And tonight, that fear would lead her straight into the trap I had set. Because Lena wasn't the only one playing a hidden game. Vivian's empire, the one that seemed untouchable, had been built on a very deliberate illusion. She had been planning something even more audacious than public humiliation, a staged financial collapse. 3 months ago, she began siphoning funds from her charitable foundation, redirecting money into offshore accounts, and making subtle, unverifiable trades within the family's trust. The goal? To appear desperate, weak, and vulnerable, so that she could manipulate Marcus's inheritance and strengthen her control over the family legacy without anyone suspecting. I leaned back in my chair, letting the enormity of it sink in. Vivian thought she was orchestrating the perfect plan: humiliate me, secure her grip over Lorenzo and Marcus, and ensure that if anyone questioned her methods, it would look like she was just a mother protecting her family. She had no idea that I had already uncovered everything, and now, with Lena revealed as her unwitting, or perhaps willingly complicit, I had the perfect opportunity. Vivian would continue believing she was ahead, while I quietly tightened the noose around her empire. Because soon, the world would witness Vivian's carefully curated image crumble, starting at the very Dallow where she thought she had humiliated me. And when I stepped back into that spotlight, she wouldn't see it coming. The gala hall was alive with chatter, clinking glasses, and the faint hum of the orchestra. But to me, everything had slowed. Every eye in the room was on Vivian Hayes, the woman who thought she had orchestrated the perfect humiliation. I stepped back into the room, my black satin dress flowing like a shadow, heels clicking softly against the marble. The divorce papers were still tucked into my clutch, a silent reminder of her arrogance. Vivian's smile was triumphant. She believed she had won. Every whisper, every gasp, every camera flash was fuel for her ego. She didn't notice the subtle shift, the way I carry myself, calm, poised, untouchable. I let the silence stretch for a moment, letting the anticipation build. Then, I approached the small stage where the orchestra had paused earlier, the eyes of 300 guests drilling into me. Vivian's posture stiffened as she realized I intended to speak. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, my voice steady, carrying effortlessly across the grand hall. "Tonight is a special evening, not for the reasons you may think." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Vivian's hand trembled slightly around her champagne glass. "You see," I continued, letting my words sink in, "some people believe power is measured by appearances, wealth, or control over others. Others measure it by knowledge and timing." I let the gaze linger on Vivian. Her lips parted, confusion creeping into her carefully curated expression. Vivian Hayes built her empire on lies, I said, voice soft but sharp, and tonight you'll all see the receipts. A hush fell over the room. Camera zoomed in. Guests leaned forward, sensing the gravity of what I implied, but not yet understanding the storm to come. Vivian's smile faltered. The air between us was taut, electric, and deliciously precarious. She took a step closer, as if to intimidate, but I didn't flinch. I held the divorce papers lightly in my hand, showing them briefly to the crowd, but not revealing my intentions fully. The suspense was mine to control. Every flicker of doubt in Vivian's eyes was a victory, because this was only the beginning. The real revelation, the one that would shatter reputations, expose betrayals, and redraw the lines of power, was coming. Because soon, every secret Vivian buried, every fraudulent transfer, and every hidden betrayal would be exposed, and the world would witness the empire of the Hayes family crumble, starting tonight. The room was electric, the silence almost deafening, as I let my words linger in the grand hall. Vivian's golden gown seemed dull in the harsh glare of reality, her triumphant smirk beginning to falter. I raised my hand and signaled discreetly to Damien, who was disguised as a server near the stage. In an instant, the large screens lining the hall lit up. Financial statements, transfer documents, and signed agreements appeared in crisp detail. Every guest gasped. Phones were raised, flashes fired, and whispers erupted like wildfire. "Vivian Hayes," I said calmly, letting each word land. "Your empire isn't what you've shown the world. Millions were siphoned from your so-called charity foundation. Funds that were supposed to help people like the ones sitting in this room instead were hidden offshore." Vivian's face blanched, lips trembling. The golden mask of control was slipping. I clicked again, revealing contracts and transaction trails, showing Marcus's unwitting, or perhaps coerced, signatures on illegal documents. His face paled as realization dawned. "Marcus," I said softly, "you signed these, believing you were helping, but the consequences are real, and everyone here can see the truth." Then came the final blow. A short video clip played, showing Lena speaking to Vivian over the phone, clearly sharing details of my acquisitions and movements. Gasps filled the room. Lena's eyes went wide in panic. Vivian's hands shook. "That's impossible," she stammered, but the evidence was undeniable. Every transaction, every account, every betrayal was documented and displayed. Her empire, meticulously built over decades, was unraveling in front of 300 witnesses. And yet, I stayed calm. My voice didn't labor. I let them feel the power shift, slowly, deliberately. I let them see that the woman they thought powerless was, in fact, running the show. I glanced at Vivian, her golden aura now tarnished by fear and disbelief. "You see," I said softly, "sometimes the greatest empire is the one no one sees coming. And tonight, you've been exposed." The crowd reacted into a mix of murmurs, shocked whispers, and frantic camera clicks. Social media notifications were already blowing up. This gala, meant to humiliate me, was becoming Vivian Hayes' public downfall. Because as public as this revelation is, it's only the beginning. I still have one more move, one that will ensure Vivian never regains her grip, and the full power of her empire will be mine to decide. The crowd was still reeling from the revelations, but I wasn't finished, not by a long shot. The divorce papers remained tucked safely in my clutch, a symbol of the game that was only just beginning. Vivian's eyes darted between the screens and me. a flicker of panic betraying the confidence she tried so hard to maintain. "Vivian," I said, stepping closer to the stage, my heels echoing like a verdict across the marble floor. "Tonight, you learned the truth about your empire. But there's more you need to see." I tapped my phone. New screens lit up behind me. Property deeds, corporate acquisition papers, and bank approvals. The audience gasped as I calmly stated, "I now own your mansion, your flagship companies, and even your secret overseas holdings." Vivian's hand flew to her mouth. Her empire, the one she spent decades building and protecting, was legally and irrevocably in my control. She stumbled backward, disbelief etched into every line of her face. Then, the final twist. Her so-called secret ally, the person who had blocked my acquisition moves, was revealed in documents displayed on the screen. Her ex-husband, long thought irrelevant, had been skimming funds for years. Every deal, every underhanded move, caught on paper, all in real time for the guests to see. I turned to Lorenzo, my voice soft but deadly serious. "Marcus," I said, "you have a choice. Stand with the truth, own your mistakes publicly, and maybe salvage what's left of your reputation, or continue to obey your mother's manipulation and lose everything." His face paled. The man who had been timid, weak, and compliant all year now faced the consequences of his inaction. He hesitated, then faltered, realizing that this was a game he could no longer play safely. Vivian shrieked, pointing at me. "You can't do this! This isn't legal!" "Oh, it's legal," I replied, voice calm, steady, and final. Every document, every transaction, every acquisition was conducted ethically and within the law. "And now, Vivian, you are powerless." The audience erupted. Phones recorded everything. Cameras captured the downfall in real time. Vivian sank into a chair, hyperventilating, the Golden Queen dethroned. Lorenzo's shoulders slumped in defeat, realizing too late that his loyalty had been bought with illusions. Because tonight wasn't just about revenge, it was about liberation. And now, with Vivian stripped of power, with the empire firmly in my hands, I could finally ensure justice, protection, and rebuilding for those she once crushed. The hall was still buzzing with whispers, flashing cameras, and murmurs of disbelief, but I felt the calmness settle over me. Vivian Hayes, once untouchable, was now stripped of her power. Lorenzo, finally confronted by the consequences of his weakness, stood silently, clutching the divorce papers that had begun this chain of events. I approached him deliberately, heels clicking softly against the marble floor. "Marcus," I said, holding the signed papers, "this is your freedom. Use it wisely. And remember, strength isn't inherited, it's chosen." He swallowed hard, eyes wide, realizing that his indecision had cost him the chance to truly stand beside anyone. I handed him the documents, leaving no room for argument, and walked past him, feeling the weight of a year's torment lift from my shoulders. Vivienne, meanwhile, sat in her chair, trembling. Her empire had collapsed, her reputation in tatters, and the golden ore she wore so proudly had been replaced with raw fear. But I didn't revel in cruelty. My goal was justice, not devastation. With a measured voice, I addressed the audience. "Tonight, you've witnessed the consequences of deceit, manipulation, and greed. But justice isn't about destroying people. It's about reclaiming power, protecting others, and creating change." The screens behind me displayed new plans. Hale manufacturing would continue, but under ethical management. Jobs would be protected, debts would be resolved fairly. Vivian would live modestly, removed from positions of authority, her influence curtailed, her life recalibrated. I turned to the employees who had quietly suffered under Vivian's rule. "You've been patient, loyal, resilient. This empire belongs to you now, as much as it does to its rightful owners. Together, we rebuild, not just companies, but trust, integrity, and dignity." Later, I established a foundation dedicated to women who had suffered emotional abuse, especially at the hands of controlling in-laws. Legal aid, financial support, counseling, and job training became pillars of the organization, tools I wished I had during my own ordeal. As I stepped into my car that evening, a sleek silver vehicle that symbolized both my reclaimed identity and my freedom, I felt truly at peace. Vivian's reign of terror had ended. Lorenzo's illusions were shattered. And I, Ava Sterling, could finally embrace who I was: heir, protector, strategist, and advocate. Because revenge isn't about destruction. It's about reclaiming your power, restoring justice, and ensuring that the pain inflicted by others doesn't define your life. And as the city lights blurred past, I smiled, knowing one undeniable truth. The quiet woman, underestimated for too long, had finally won.